Good.
It's in nice shape. Well, it was.
Hello.
Mark.
When can we get rid of this room now?
We'll never be able to go back. It's too small. He can't.
I got a chair for you, Marty.
He can't get a good.
Not without some different equipment.
There.
You get
Everyone says they want to change the world. But not everyone will. We are not everyone.
I don't care either. Oh, there is. You don't get as many like watching today, but by the next meeting, they'll
I'm Keegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odd.
Probably in the 3 or 4 or something like that.
On behalf of Mason Knox Ranch.
From everyone here at Odd and Charlet.
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch.
From our family to yours.
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
Have you ever watched Ken Pop?
guess I didn't know I could.
He watches it.
I didn't know I could do that. Yeah. Well, I didn't know, but. We are. Nope. You go to Bearcats.tv and click on the rewards. Yeah. Find our channel.
get all the advertising.
How are you?
Nobody's going. Can I be a walk out? Can I be a walk out? Hey, how are you? How are you?
Limestone canyons, flowing waterfalls, and pristine beauty make Spearfish a sanctuary for those seeking the ultimate escape. Outdoor enthusiasts will find top-notch sport climbing, mountain biking, and UTV OHV trails. Guests are steps away from peaceful hiking trails and tranquil streams. Relax and rehash your day's adventure at one of our award-winning...
A membership with Sioux Valley Co-op will benefit you. Simply put, a membership with Sioux Valley Co-op is ownership. They're owned and controlled by members. No outside investors. So all of their annual revenues go back to their customers. Become a member today. You will benefit.
Sioux Valley Co-op. Your energy needs with service guaranteed.
Partnering with champions. RDO does that. Whether it's on the farm, the football field, or in the backyard, RDO prides itself on partnering with champions. For over 100 years, John Deere has been a champion of building the finest compact tractors available. Let RDO Equipment Company be your compact tractor sales and service champion. Plus, with 0% financing available, there's never been a better time to purchase your next compact tractor. Don't miss your chance to discover the RDO Equipment Company difference for yourself. Visit RDOequipment.com to find a dealer near you.
Winning isn't everything. It's how you play the game that counts. If your values tell you the same, let's start a new conversation about money. At Thrivent Financial, we believe money is a tool, not a goal. Because it's not just about making more, it's about doing more. For your family, church, and community. Call Webster Thrivent Financial today at 605-345-3635.
I'm Keegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odd.
On behalf of Mason Knox Ranch.
From everyone here at Odd and Charlet.
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch.
From our family to yours.
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
At A&W, it's called the original Bacon Double Cheeseburger because we invented it. You're welcome, world. 100% U.S. beef, crispy hickory smoked bacon, invented and perfected here. Not to mention, it's just better with made fresh A&W root beer. At participating restaurants, prices may vary. Tax extra.
The Galley Hotel Bar and Grill is on Highway 12 in Webster. Comfortable non-smoking rooms and their steakhouse and bar are open 7 days a week with the grill opening daily at 5 p.m. Daily specials and popular Wings Wednesdays with over 14 sauces with traditional bone-in or boneless wings. Thursdays feature Chislick special night and their slow-cooked prime rib is served on Friday and Saturday nights. Check them out on Facebook or call 605-345-9989 for reservations.
The Guard helps you get an education. The South Dakota Army National Guard offers all its service members in-state tuition assistance towards your college or technical school education. For your service, you will receive 50% off tuition at all South Dakota Board of Regents colleges. If you attend a technical school in the state, you will receive 83.5% off tuition. For more information, visit their Facebook and Instagram pages or check out their website, nationalguard.com/SD.
World-class service with hometown friendliness. That's what you can expect from the staff of Haler Automotive. We sell new vehicles from both Chevrolet and Buick, along with a good selection of late-model pre-owned vehicles. And if you're looking for something a little more vintage, come take a look at our classic car showroom, Highway 12 Classics. We have a full service department, parts department, and a body shop. We're conveniently located East Highway 12 in Webster, or view all of our inventory online at HalerAuto.com.
Paraboom's Cafe, your hometown family restaurant since 1976, going on 4 generations of quality, friendly service, always here for you and your family. We serve locally ground burger from Jorgensen's Meat, never frozen and hand-pattied right here in our own kitchen. Paraboom's Cafe has our very own soup Nazi Mitch, who creates tasty, good-for-your-soul soups daily. And of course, a Paraboom's breakfast like our popular scrap pile or the famous Palmer rolls will cure any morning blues you may have, all while being treated graciously from one of our kind staff. Paraboom's Cafe. Go Bearcats!
For those who don't like to be still, for those with things to do and the drive to get them done, for those in search of a partner to help make it happen, there's a bank. A bank that listens, acts, and impacts all things right here. Dakota Bank. Go with experience. Go with teamwork. Go with integrity. For banking, insurance, mortgage, and trust. Dakota Bank. Here for you. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender. Insurance and trust services not FDIC insured.
Limestone canyons, flowing waterfalls, and pristine beauty make Spearfish a sanctuary for those seeking the ultimate escape. Outdoor enthusiasts will find top-notch sport climbing, mountain biking, and UTV OHV trails. Guests are steps away from peaceful hiking trails and tranquil streams. Relax and rehash your day's adventure at one of our award-winning local breweries. Finding rest is an important part of any adventure. Lodging in Spearfish comes with a variety of choices, from cabins, B&Bs, and campgrounds to the comforts of your popular brand-name hotels. To find your unique adventure in Spearfish, go to visitspearfish.com now.
A membership with Sioux Valley Co-op will benefit you. Simply put, a membership with Sioux Valley Co-op is ownership. They're owned and controlled by members. No outside investors. So all of their annual revenues go back to their customers. Become a member today. You will benefit.
Sioux Valley Co-op, your energy needs with service guaranteed.
Partnering with champions. RDO does that. Whether it's on the farm, the football field, or in the backyard, RDO prides itself on partnering with champions. For over 100 years, John Deere has been a champion of building the finest compact tractors available. Let RDO Equipment Company be your compact tractor sales and service champion. Plus, with 0% financing available, there's never been a better time to purchase your next compact tractor. Don't miss your chance to discover the RDO Equipment Company difference for yourself. Visit RDOequipment.com to find a dealer near you.
Winning isn't everything. It's how you play the game that counts. If your values tell you the same, let's start a new conversation about money. At Thrivent Financial, we believe money is a tool, not a goal. Because it's not just about making more, it's about doing more. For your family, church, and community. Call Webster Thrivent Financial today at 605-345-3635.
I'm Tegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odden.
On behalf of Mason Knox Ranch,
From everyone here at Odden Charlet,
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch,
From our family to yours,
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you.
We thank you.
thank you. I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
Oh, I just wonder, I can't read it.
At A&W, it's called the original Bacon Double Cheeseburger because we invented it. You're welcome, world. 100% U.S. beef, crispy hickory smoked bacon, invented and perfected here. Not to mention, it's just better with made fresh A&W root beer. At participating restaurants, prices may vary. Tax extra.
The Galley Hotel Bar and Grill is on Highway 12 in Webster. Comfortable non-smoking rooms and their steakhouse and bar are open 7 days a week with the grill opening daily at 5 p.m. Daily specials and popular Wings Wednesdays with over 14 sauces with traditional bone-in or boneless wings. Thursdays feature Chislick special night and their slow-cooked prime rib is served on Friday and Saturday nights. Check them out on Facebook or call 605-345-9989 for reservations.
The Guard helps you get an education. The South Dakota Army National Guard offers all its service members in-state tuition assistance towards your college or
couple big things that have the impact. The biggest we never know what Pierre's going to do by scratch or finance major but they also did something 3% because in some areas but not so that at least now we especially in district itself in terms of also maintaining the level and I guess where I'm going I don't see too much coming here this year they try to what can you afford I think it's always fair to say 99%. And so I developed a spreadsheet. We've gone through it. I can get really technical on it. I guess what I think what do I see? I can tell you, we did a great project on there in December. Jack was trying to go through so we built living in Spearfish Rapid City.
You know, we can't so compare a little. You know, the spirit.
Those are extreme you see a lot of the push, economic development, Senator Kraft, how do we get more it's there. So we're not reversing, and then saying, okay, what are the outside effects? It's peer. Our valuation have stabilized, because you saw, and when you did the consolidation, but basically, Tom, where would you like to
Just so we make sure we're all on the same page. Right now, we've been looking at, we brought in AI, we had them survey, review, vocational and ISP together, very interesting job. AI also put together a very presentation. After the end of the conversation, ISP, $1 million question, their expertise, so that takes us to consideration facilities. The other issues that we have, jump in. It's had issues in the past, other issues, looks, wants, not necessary necessities. Looking at all of those issues, trying to get a global picture. They've come up with some. Now we're going to them, and we're going to put together a committee from Larry and I. From that.
And where this all has kind of started, we have an issue, and we've been trying to figure out what is the best plan forward through some of those conversations that we have with these different folks. You know what, we're going to have to change part of our we're just going to make this more so that's when we jump into the old vocational wing, and is that feasible, and then housing we need to feel like when you look at bringing everything back.
The boiler is older. That's an amazing feat of technology. Number two, when we look at facilities, we first went in Development Corporation, I don't think any of us had any. That is we have one down. There's no question what you're talking about. That's where the major Webster, foothills, and then our farm. When you got the farming. So those are then you combine them with plus also looking at talking about states. I think Amy on So that's where teacher here, So I thought, the nice thing about all of our, ever since. So there's been time, hard. And he will tell you. Crazy. And they'll go back. It's been a great. Everything Go back. John, check. So that's where we're. So Larry and I started. That's where the fact of we're really strong.
How much did you get in ESSER?
For ESSER 3?
Yeah, ESSER 2 and 3.
Well, ESSER 2, we already have.
You spent?
Yeah, well,
Okay, it's
we
not
have.
approved.
Right, we have the application waiting for approval. And then we have ESSER 3, we should have about 600 to 650 of our funds.
After we have to have 20% of that
For learning
towards loss of learning.
Yeah, so.
So you have
650.
The reason I ask on that is when you look at your available funds, what you have cash on hand, what you have coming with ESSER, I don't want to say it, the easiest layup with ESSER and new construction is HVAC. They've already come out and said, hey, that's going to qualify. You know, me down in Pine Ridge trying to get a $20 million wellness center, I'm going to get kicked out, but the HVAC is the one. So if you know you have to do the HVAC and where you tie that to, you're best off tying it directly to that HVAC versus a total construction project.
Right.
Because then we're not doing Davis-Bacon or Buy American on, say an $8 or $10 million project, but we're just solely tying it to that HVAC.
And that's our intent.
Yep. And so, then probably looking at, as we whittle away, you get into what amount can you afford. Couple rules of thumb I like to look at is usually on capital outlay you want to have about 40% or less of your total capital outlay to debt service. So if you're roughly 1.7 million, 40% of that is what, 675, 700,000 roughly right in there. Now can you go above it? Absolutely, but you're generally going above it in a faster growing school district like a Harrisburg, or in a gigantic school district like Meade School that's like what, 1,200 square miles, or it's bigger than Rhode Island. And so, if you were to go above that 700 in debt service, that's when you start looking a little bit more towards that general obligation. in Redfield a couple years ago, we split between capital outlay and general obligation. So now with interest rates low, you can obviously borrow more money and still keep it within under your 700,000. And currently right now your debt service, when you take that 120 out, I think you're down to about what, 250?
Yeah, I was just looking at that, about
So about 250.
250, yeah.
So getting to ultimately, what is that magic number you can afford? So if you look at the 250 minus the 700, you're at 450, but that 250 really drops off in 27, 28, I believe. So
I didn't think it was that.
We have another one coming off in 25.
25. So you're on the downward side of that, which technically shows you should be borrowing again because you've already maxed out 20 years ago your useful life of that asset, which you're doing again now and advancing it forward. So you take roughly anywhere from 8.5 to 9 million at 2%, 20 years, that gets you about 600,000. So you take that 600 plus the 250, so you're at 850. And if I'm throwing this out too fast, I've had a lot of coffee coming up. It goes back to what I said earlier. You have to digest that debt for the first year or two, but when that other drops off, this comes right into place. And we can structure something like that where we'll level out debt service over time. If we say our bogey is we don't want to be above 650, 700,000 in debt service. And that doesn't include the ESSER funds. So you take 9 million plus the 600, you're at 9.6 million. What number don't you want to get over is 10 million, and the reason why is it referable over 10 million? The answer is yes. If it's 1.5% of your valuation, somebody can come in and take out a petition to refer it. So those are your numbers. We start at 10 now, we don't want to be above that. We know we can afford 9 million, and where you would go from that point on. Because the other thing you're going to get is you're going to get a minimum 3% increase of your $1.7 million if you maintain that $1.7 million levy that you have for capital outlay. So you're not raising anybody's taxes, you're just using what's within the tax that you've already generated.
But are these fairly hard numbers you're throwing at us, 10 million, 9 million?
Yes.
They're not just guesses, estimates, that type of thing, based on what you've seen or?
That's what the Excel tells me. I just spent too much time with Excel and can remember on that, but yeah, because where your valuation is, it's 10 million. Or your 1.5% of your valuation gets you to about 10 million, so it's referred. Your 40% of 1.7 million, which you generate right now, is 680,000, right?
Yep.
So that's where I'm coming in at. You take, I round up a little bit, so 700 minus your current debt service of 250, you're now down to 450. So you can fit within that, but that 250 falls off in a matter of 3 to 5 years.
I'm just gonna start spitballing, guys, because I got lots of questions coming through my head. So, let's say that we determine that there was a certain amount of this project that we need to do. And we just decide to move forward. Can we put the more trivial part of the project, or the questionable, if we were, if one...
More of a luxury.
More of a luxurious part of the project.
Requirements.
Could we put that out for a vote? For a bond issue?
If you wanted to divide that package out, whether it's your wrestling room or whatever, and say if that's 2 million, you could. You could send that to that. If your CTE and your non-luxury, your essential items, I would recommend not going to a vote. Because what if they say no?
I agree. I mean, that's what we were elected to do, was make the tough decisions.
Exactly. I mean, it used to be, the reason why we changed the law, and this goes back to the mid-90s, of referable, if it's over 1.5% of the valuation, is because people were referring everything at that time, and they weren't allowing the elected leaders to do their job.
Right.
If you're not required to go to a vote, and you do go to a vote, and the vote is no, as you said, done deal, nothing moves forward.
Well, I'm more technical and political. My political side would say you're in trouble.
Technical. I'm saying, even though you could, without a vote, if you go with a vote and it's voted down,
Correct.
your hands are tied, you do not move forward.
You could still
Even though
legally,
technically you could.
legally you still could.
Legally, you still could.
Correct.
If we're under the 10 million.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you go to a vote and it's not needed and it's voted down, legally, you can still move forward. I was just clarifying that.
Are there any
When you say
financial
portions.
advantages or disadvantages? Meaning, are there lower rates? The rates would all stay the same if you were under a
Certificate versus an obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I was saying that, of course, was if you do a portion of it, as we started there, do 7 million, and then go ahead with luxury or whatever that they vote on, they're voting on that, but are they actually voting in their minds on the whole thing? You know, that's where I'm kind of trying to clarify it a little bit, that if you go over that, that's referable.
I think you confuse the public. To me, I'd want some space between the two issues.
Sure.
If you were to do that. Because when the public gets confused, they vote no. They just do.
So, getting back to Joel's question there, is there an interest rate difference between capital outlay certificates and general obligation bonds?
There is. It's probably maybe 10, 12 basis points. A basis point is 1/100%. The reason why is a general obligation is the purest form of collateral. A bondholder says, I can come in and tell that auditor, levy it throughout the district and collect it, whereas a capital outlay, you can only take what they collect, because now you're restricted within roughly your, what, $2 and I think 64 cents or 24 cents that you have a levy. So they would take that. They would still win, but the market differentiates that. There's some difference, not a heck of a lot. Not worth the risk of a GO versus a capital outlay if you can afford a capital outlay.
How worried do we need to be about changes made in Pier in the future with how they dictate how we spend our capital outlay dollars? I mean, I haven't been around long enough to know how often do they change the playing field, you know?
I think it's gotten a lot better. 5 years ago, I was nervous because, you know, we would issue capital outlay. And a perfect example is ABO, Agar Blunt Oneida. Richest school district in the state. We go out and issue capital outlay, and then they say the most you can levy based on your student enrollment was like 600,000. I said, whoa, debt service is 650. How does this work? And so, you know, we changed it when it comes back, when that pendulum swings, but they've become a lot better now in terms of transferring to your general fund, and what the 45% that you can transfer to your general fund, giving you the 3% growth within the capital outlay, knowing that not every school is getting a growth, but you get that 3%. Their biggest concern is that they don't want you above $3. I see that written in stone. You will never get to that $3 per thousand.
And just so it's clear, Toby, I mean, obviously we haven't made our call for capital outlay yet for the next fiscal year, but in our conversation in our last board meeting, our instructions to Lori and Jim was it would be a 0% increase on the capital outlay levy. We are going to call for the exact same amount that we called for the year before. So hopefully, if valuations go up, technically it should be less that actually individuals are paying on it. But we are doing 0%, and our goal is, I think, as a board, we're trying to do, as Larry said, mission critical things that have to be done within probably house with what we already have funding and financing for, I think would be a fair statement. The extras, as you said, Larry, then let the public decide what they want to do on that. And maybe that, and then obviously that would be through a general obligation bond. Okay.
You know, anecdotally, I'll tell you, it's interesting with some of the schools I work with. I just came from one here about a month ago where they were too fiscally conservative of not taking care of the maintenance, the repair, and were so scared of, I don't want to say raising the mill levy, but keeping up with inflation. So when their furnace went out in February this year, it wasn't a fun story, not by any means. And it wasn't out for 1 week, it was out for 2.5 weeks. And basically, they had cobbled together so many different systems over the years that one system took down the whole entire system. So financially and politically correct are two different things, but just be careful of how you go, but cognizant of the taxpayers' money.
When you look at our numbers, where would you say a tax increase or a call increase would be warranted based on what we're looking at? Would there one be needed?
What do you have in your reserve fund for your capital outlay reserve right now?
I think we're gonna end the year at about 1.4 million.
And what percent do you transfer to the general fund a year?
This year I will not be transferring anything.
When you start making that transfer from the capital outlay to the general fund and projecting is when you start being real careful with what your capital outlay is, because when you make that transfer, that really starts to turn into a permanent transfer. So with what you've been able to maintain in your capital outlay and not do that transfer, says I would compliment the administration extremely well of managing the finances.
But
I
have to clarify,
Yeah.
we do transfer every year.
Yes.
It's just not this year.
Okay.
There was actually a lot of
There's
efficiencies
some CARES money.
picked up through COVID,
Okay.
where we saved some money, and then we had COVID money, and so there were some reasons why there wasn't.
We budget around 4 to 450 per year. We have not been transferring that much, but that's about.
So about 25% of your capital outlay was being transferred over.
We never
Well,
necessarily know.
No.
No, we budgeted.
Previous, like last year, we were able to only have to transfer 250,000.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been very lucky. I mean, I'll give credit. We got Mark Hansen sitting in here. We've got Kathy Mellon. We've got other board members that have been here in the past. And I think that really over the last 10, 15 years, the board has been very aggressive and conservative in trying to keep the school going as well as we can, keeping up on the maintenance, but at the same time trying to be good to the taxpayers and really watching every nickel and dime. There was at least 3 years that we stayed at 960, where it was a 0% increase on the capital outlay. And we've really, those were back in I think 11, 12, and 13. Maybe that might be off by a year there, but the board here, Webster's pretty solid financially. We've been in a very good position. We had one time where I think our general fund, when we first transferred to the new system on how you had to keep track and how much you could have in at one point in time, and there was one time where it was maybe a little bit nervous as to where we were going to cover checks, cash flow. But since that time, we've been able to fix that problem moving forward because we learned from it. But otherwise, we've been very good.
Because if you look at a dollar that comes in, 40% goes to your debt service like we talked about, that's the 650 amount. Let's just say 20% goes to your general fund, so you're at 60, leaving you 40% roughly of $1.7 million. Again, that leaves you 600,000 for your tech, your curriculum, your buses, and it balances out well on that basis.
And actually, our buses is general fund because
Well, we
don't buy our
expense
buses.
75,000 a year. We expense 15%.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's still off of that.
Yeah. It's when you're getting to that 40-45% of your transfer from your capital A over, that's the tough one.
And that was what my question earlier was, as long as Pier doesn't mess with that formula, we're fine. But I don't know how often do they change. They only change what you can transfer for a reason, because they're giving you less.
Lori and I have been doing this for a lot of years, and I think you would agree with me, Lori. I think the legislature is getting better at it, where they're considering a lot of different scenarios when they change the formula. What's that going to do to a school district that's got $650,000 in debt service, and it's only going to generate $600,000? They look at those things a lot better than they used to.
Sure.
I'm still nervous every year about all kinds of things when the legislature meets, but they are better.
They had to fix it. I went into the Bison School in 2004 what, 16, and their valuation in 13, when they changed the valuation, was 100 million, and by 2016, 17, it was 300 million, and that's not from growth. So you can see why the country outside erupted on that.
I think what it comes down to is that what we're looking for is options, as Larry put out at the beginning, that, and cut me off though, Larry, if you want. Go ahead, Larry.
No, go ahead.
I think what we want to do is take care of what's critical and then give options to the community as to everything else. Is that a fair statement, Larry?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting back where I started. The tax number. I know we went through all this. Do you feel comfortable that if we were in that 680 or whatever, after Lori or whatever, that our capital call, outlay calls would handle what we're looking at doing? Of course, curriculum fits in there, everything else.
Well, with the, what did you say, 1.2 million in reserve? 1.4. Yeah, that's going to allow you to digest that debt very efficiently in the next couple of years. So, you know, let's say you're at that 750, which you're bumped up. Well, you take from that reserve to pay that 750. Is what
that'll tide us over until 25 when we knock off some more debt.
Exactly, and allow you to say to the taxpayers, probably, we're not going to change the amount we're requesting because you can use what's all within the budget.
If you tighten your belt for 2 years until you get to the point where that drops off, we need to make sure we don't have other things coming up curriculum-wise or whatever, that we would need that money or it would get tight.
Because, you know, what do you keep in your reserve? Do you want to keep 50% of a year's collection? You know, and if that's the case, that's what, 800,000. So that $1.4 million gets brought down to 800,000 in the next couple of years. I think you can stay true to your word that you're not going to raise taxes. You're not going to increase your request. Unless something drastically goes wrong, which none of us can predict.
I'm just looking at my notes from when Larry and I met with you, and one of them here was at that time, and maybe this has changed, was the deadline to spend the ESSER 3 funds still December of 23?
We have now the 24, was it June of 24 roughly, where you're going to have it spent, not committed. They want that out the door, so you better make your last payout and pay.
But also, we can't start building and then try to get ESSER funds after the fact.
Right.
Yeah, it has to be, that has to be approved before.
And so timing here is critical.
Right.
We've got to get the timing right, which is why we're here early on, trying to look into the future.
And if we apply for any of those grants.
That's right.
We learned the lesson the hard way. We would have been granted that grant on the old vocational building on Main Street if we hadn't started. But if we hadn't started, we wouldn't have had the vocational school that year, the CTE. We won't get burned by that again.
And getting your team in place. So the state put out an RFP for a third-party review of the applications of the ESSER. Every architect firm I talked, and they wanted to hire an architect firm to review all these deals. Everyone in South Dakota didn't apply because they were being conflicted out. So that tells you, as you know, within the construction trades, it's getting scarce and scarce and scarce of who you get hired on your team to get into the queue.
What Toby is referencing there, with the ESSER funds, if you do construction or any sizable project, and you have a local contractor that helps put together the specifications for you for the project that you want to do, whoever helps you cannot bid on that project. And so it limits.
They can self-perform now. We did get clarification on that. Yeah, we talked to the state engineer late last week. That they're saying the CMAR process with self-performing, as long as you follow the bidding laws, can do that. Before, I was nervous, where do you get a true CM, a CMAR, you know, but we did seek a little bit more clarification. None of it's been quote-unquote approved, though. That's just what's been.
And that's regardless of the size of the project, you know, like if somebody's doing a small HVAC project and have it spec locally, they can have their local people.
When I talked to Rod Fortinet, legislative audit, basically he said two things: document and defend that it was a fair process for all to participate on it. And so as long as the bid laws were followed, as long as you advertised, if you go to the CMAR process, the 2 weeks advertising, you show you had a scoring process, as long as you can defend that is the direction that I've been told at this time.
That's good.
It's slowly getting better, but slow is the key word.
Yeah.
So, Toby, I don't know what you got up on the screen there, but do you have a spreadsheet along that kind of, you could project some amortization schedules to get us, to get a dollar line in our minds, you know, where would the $500,000 payment take us, or $400,000?
You have to do it every year.
That's on.
This is a touch screen.
Already.
So you're touching on here.
Not quite looking like Vanna, Toby.
I can see it.
There's this page. This page. Yeah, it's got that.
So what I did here,
That one. Second page of the count.
Which one are you on?
summary page. So I looked at this 2, 3, 4, 4.5, or 9. I mean, I can put whatever number you want in there, but your 9 million at 2% for 20 years is 550,000. Your equate that into your levy, that's about 84 cents per $1,000. Well, you're levying 2 1/4, so you know we're right back within the range of what we looked at within metrics to keep that the same. You know, do you go to 10 million? Maybe not. Unlike Tom, I had chalk when
I ate the chalk.
But you figure your 10 million is probably, what, another 60,000? So if you went to 10 million, you'd be at 610, 620,000 at 2% if you went to that full amount. Then again, as I said, you can afford it because you're within the metrics of under the 40%, or say, you know, squeak a little bit 45. But remember, we've got the reserve fund to get you through. I need to take this out, but yeah, your debt service right now is 250,000. You're going to drop down and be completely out of debt by 2028. And in fact, 2 of these debts, they're almost 0% interest. It's free money. Those are those Q scabs and Q energies.
That's it.
Yeah, that was one of those Obama stimulus deals. But yeah, you're going to drop off at that point. So let's just say your debt service is 700 out of that 250. Yeah, you can absorb that 450.
And that Q scabs, if, you know,
Should.
you pay that off a year early.
Yes, yeah. What helps for you, that puts you in a really good financial health, is you have the $1.4 million. You have the ability to do the $1 million reserve. You do the $1.7 million that you've already levied on the taxpayers. You're not increasing anything anymore. So you're fit everything within the budget and to take this on. To me, I don't want to sound like a debt proponent, but you're not really getting anything cheaper than the way you are now. Do you go from 9 to 10 if it's another 50, 60,000 a year, because you're at 2% interest. You're paying almost all principal and very, very little interest. I just refinanced Gettysburg bond from 2014, and we had rates over 5% in there. Yeah.
Well, I used to pay.
I thought that was good interest.
Paid over 18, 19%.
I bet. I bet.
And these low interest rates, we can lock them in for the 20 years.
Correct. The timing, the timing issue that I run into with clients is, and it doesn't sit right, is when you say, if you know you're gonna spend 10 million or 9 million, are you better off issuing now, then you go to bid, but then they say, we don't know what our bids are. I say, well, that's where your team has to come together and say, I can tell you right now it's 9 million or less.
So let me ask you that question. If you locked in 9 million today, 20 years, capital outlay certificates, what would you be at? Would you be at 2 or would you be at less?
You'd be probably 190, 195 maybe. So if you know you're gonna pay it back, are you better off taking it in account today? Or do you wanna wait later when you know more of the unknown numbers? But that's where you rely on your architect and your construction manager, if you have one, to pull that together. And that's maybe your wrestling rooms, your alternate, your music, or whatever you have. Typically now, when you see the packages, you're gonna have 6, 7, 8, 9 different alternates. And then at the end of the day, it's, you're sitting at the buffet, I'm having my country fried chicken, but then do I want the potatoes and gravy and so forth?
You know, what's interesting from my perspective in my industry is the last 5 years, it's just been nuts, right? I mean, it's just work everywhere. And right now in our industry, in the heavy highway, we're going, what are we all gonna do next year? The work's starting to fall off, and so I feel like we're in a potentially good spot if we were to do something to let some work. I think in the next 18 months, the work is falling off a little bit. I can't say that to material costs, but we've all seen what lumber has done, and now it's coming back down. I mean, that's just a...
Is there going to be any infrastructure money on any of this that's going to fit into buildings?
I don't know how to answer that yes or no, because when they put the program out, it usually takes me about 4 months to figure it out. And I'm generally ahead of most everybody else, but I don't know with this administration.
They're looking at putting quite a bit of money into education, but is it going to be, and I know you've got several different areas, but, back to startup school, everything else, but structure probably not, or?
I generally don't see structure money into education. The ESSER, at first, we didn't think construction was really going to fit in there. And then they come out and they say, the learning loss, and then they define that as 20%. And, then the learning loss is still a little broad of how they interpret that. So I can't answer that, I guess. I can tell you what you can afford, and then the rest is a bonus.
This might be a tough question to answer, but, if we were to do something, I don't want to become house poor, meaning we can't afford to operate. This is a tough one, but do you think we could realize enough savings from gaining efficiencies to offset any operational costs? If we have more square footage, we're going to like those, going to be more, these bills going to be more.
I wouldn't be able to answer. I'd have to look to the engineers to see.
Sure.
That'd be a signaling question.
Yeah. I think we all agree it's definitely more efficient.
Yeah, when we did that LED project, that's been a home run for us. We are absolutely saving significant amounts. That's been a very good investment for us.
We probably 50,000 to 50 to 100,000 by being on one campus. You'd save
50 for sure.
Possibly up to 100.
It's probably direct efficiency, your indirects, your
Right.
personnel, your.
Well, we pay a lease, and then we have the utilities.
Yeah, we're still paying utilities whether it's on campus or off-site.
Yep.
Nothing.
There's no question we'd be better off in one location. I mean, it's just, no question.
Can you walk us through one of my other notes, just so the board's all on the same page? We talked about best case scenario as far as a timeline went. What I've got wrote down here is design was kind of 4 to 6 months. I should let you walk through it. I mean, if we were to, at what point, if we committed to a project, what's the next step? I mean, when do we lock in interest rates? When do we Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah. So your design is going to be, say, 5 to 7. When we're sitting here in July, which is perfect, because now you're going out to bid in January, February, you're one of the first ones out of the gate. And there's going to be a lot of them not out of the gate, but there's going to be a lot coming out in the spring because there's a lot of schools that are scrambling right now to pick up this construction cycle. A lot of schools, a lot of cities, the state, I mean, the universities, there's just a ton of stuff that's going to happen in 2022. So with us, it takes about 60 days from the time you start to the time you go. What I would recommend is getting your team put together right away. You're 2/3 there my way. You have me, hopefully. You have your architect. Depends on your thoughts on a construction manager or a construction manager at risk. I'm a proponent of CMAR because I see a disconnect right now between the architects and the people with the true boots on the ground that are seeing the material changes daily. And how long bids are being held. You know, usually it's typical you have 30 days. We opened that box Elder, the steel bid was good for 10. So that's where you get that disconnect a little bit between the architect and the construction manager. You've used them in the past, and like I said, I think they help greatly refine those costs from a third-person perspective and the ones that are boots on the ground. So you can get those guys on, or gals, be politically correct here, within a month and start some of your conceptual designs, your square footage takeoffs to say, hey, does 9 million get me my, how big a CTE building or so forth? And then they can say, hey, look, we just pulled this bid. Harrisburg is going to go to bid here in October. That's going to give us a good example where it's at. We add 5% because Harrisburg just always seems to come in lower. And so bringing all those together, I think then can get you the right idea by September, October, where we'd feel comfortable with, okay, 9 million, give or take a couple $100,000. Not like a couple hundred is a lot, but I'm just saying you're refining it, that we would issue the debt at that time.
So my question for you is, in your business, how big of a swing, so like right now, let's say it's at 195 basis points for 20 years. How big of a swing do you see in any one given like week, month? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, do you see like 30 basis points all of a sudden, or is it more, it starts creeping up, 5 points here, 5 points here, 5 points here?
It's a gradual leak, unless there's a major disruption going out there. Typically elections, those are huge disruptions. You don't ever want to be in the market between November and December on an even year of presidential. The COVID was a dramatic disruption where everything went up, then boom, just plummeted. Those kind of situations where you're going to see a major disruption.
So if you do see like that, I mean, because my question is that in your position, you see, if we keep it at 1.9, 1.95, that's a big difference even at 2.2.
About every 10 basis points per million is about another 100,000 you pay in interest.
So obviously we would want to be ahead of that curve. How much forewarning can you, how quickly can we lock in if we start to see the interest rates slip totally?
Once we get the paperwork behind us, which is the resolution, the official statement, the rating, those kind of items, we can do it within a week.
Do you need a project to lock it in?
No. You can lock in the funds and then fill the project.
If we lock in the funds and then for whatever reason don't use part of them or don't use any of them, is there a way to get out of it?
Yeah, you pay it back, and then your first 5 years, how many years are you usually stuck, Toby? Then
5 years.
5 years, you pay the payments, and add the interest, then you just make a lump sum payment, boom, you're done.
There's some spend down restrictions that we'd have to figure out where we probably have to put it in an escrow and then do what they call an arbitrage rebate report for the IRS.
You couldn't go spend it on new cars.
No, but I mean, I'm wondering at what point do we lock it in? If we have an idea.
Agreed.
Say that one more time, every 10 points on $1 million.
It's about, over 20 years is about 100,000 more in interest cost.
Gentlemen, what other questions do you have for Toby? Jim, Lori, do you have any questions?
I'm going to clarify on the 10 points. If we were saying 1.95, 2.05 is 10.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't know which decimal we were using.
Yeah, we get into the hundreds of the basis points. It's amazing what like a 1.9234 versus a 1.95. We don't think much of it, but when you borrow millions of dollars, there's significant difference.
All right, anything else, gentlemen?
Larry, your concerns? Did I answer your concern?
I'll live with it.
All right, well, Toby, I appreciate you taking your time to come on down. I know you got a little bit of a jaunt back, about 3 hours, of course. So
It's always fun to see my favorite Dade County Democrat.
I'm a Republican. Hey, easy now. There's somebody across from me that'll get fired up when I make comments. He disagrees with me.
Well, thank you guys. Any questions, concerns, I'll gladly always come up with them, so you just let me know. I know it's a big step, but I'll show you the technical routes. I'll leave the politics to you.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, Toby.
Thank you. I do have one topic. We don't have to vote on it, but I just like a little bit of, I didn't get any responses regarding the foundation that we'd like to remove for safety. Are you okay with me moving forward with that? The only issue would be, do you want to bury the stuff there or do you want to clean it out? That's the only.
I wouldn't have looked at it. You're talking about a field, right?
Yeah. That's really the only difference between doing it this way or doing that.
I wasn't clear on that.
Put on that dark hallway.
Pardon?
2,400 on the city.
I'll just walk out.
Water.
The city has a water line that goes through that foundation.
We paid,
They would like to keep that water line in place because it supplies something down
they
the golf
paid us
course.
2,400.
So out of the total bill, 2,400, whatever, right here, $2,458 plus their excise amount would be the city's. And I've cleared that with the city. We would just invoice them.
Even though that quote is to the school, you would get reimbursed.
Yes, I have cleared that with the city finance officer and Mike.
So it'd be 5
Yeah.
if he could bury the concrete.
Well, the grand total is, no, it'd be about 6,600.
But he'd subtract 1,600 and buries on site.
On site, yes,
And
you
then
would
they
knock
take-
it down
So
to
it'd be about
5,000.
5 would be the best scenario.
That's what I want to know. Are you looking at the 5,000 or 6,600?
In my opinion, for $1,600, you remove the rubble, because it's just gonna sink and always be a hole there.
Well, you have to get rid of that rubble.
He is, for 1,600.
Yeah, I was just,
I think we should try to do it right, long-term. Just get it done so we don't have.
is that gate ever open? Do we open that for any reason? There's a
Yes,
gate.
the day I was there looking at it, the pole vaulters use it to haul their equipment in and out.
And then I also thought that'd be a great place for camps and track meets up there on that flat spot too.
It's a safety hazard, and I appreciate the
is.
fact that we had somebody in the community. It was one of those out of sight, out of mind things. I'm like, we need to. I'm not sure why we didn't do something with it back in '06. I think when we tore down that. It'd probably save a little money then.
Obviously, we can't take action on it tonight, but Jim, I think that we'll put it as an action item for.
Your action, though, is just, I mean, this is small enough. I can go forward and say, yes, your action would be approving the claim.
Yeah, it needs to be done, and it needs to be done right. And there's no question about that. We don't want to have somebody getting hurt there. The fact that now it's already out there, people probably go start looking at it, but get it cleaned up, fixed, and do it right. And haul it away. I mean, that's just, we've got the equipment on site, and now we don't have 10 years from now, somebody coming back, well, I wish they would have hauled it away then, instead of now having this issue at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, with that, anything else? Next meeting is Monday, 7 o'clock. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Marty. Second, Larry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.